jacked up review show. It's a jacked up review show. Jacked up review show. It's a jacked up review show.
Join us as we cover many an insane movie and numerous cult TV phenomenons. Are you ready to get jacked up? Are you with us? Then listen on.
Listener discretion is advised. It's a jacked up review show. It's a jacked up review show. Jacked up review show. It's a jacked up review show. It's a jacked up review show. Jacked up review show.
And welcome back, ladies and gents. Just doing another fun description of a cast of actors from a saga. That's the theme we're going with, and we are going with the cast of the ongoing Expendables franchise, the campy 80s and 90s tribute themed action saga. So welcoming back from Movie Rankers are James and Corey. Welcome, lads.
James and Colin.
Colin, fuck, I always get a name wrong. James and Colin.
I was thinking we were famous enough for people to know our names.
Oh, man.
I just want to do it out of respect, my friends. But yes, from now on, I'll just refer to you not as just Colin, but as Colin Mockery. Oh,
Brilliant. Well, thanks for having us back, even though you don't know who we are.
who the bloody hell is this? Do it. So I'm so glad you guys are back, and thank you for doing this episode. This was fun.
Yeah, this is good for us.
Yeah, anytime.
With especially with the Expendables, we know a bit about this. So we're at the premiere of Expendables 1 and 2 in the UK. James even done interviews on the red carpet for the Expendables 2.
Yeah,
Cool.
I used to work for Blockbuster Video Store. I used to work for them at their head office, and I got to go and do some interviews. And I got Jean-Claude Van Damme, Scott Adkins.
Blockbuster still exists overseas?
Not anymore. No, not anymore. This is when I was in my youth. Yeah, it was really cool. I got to, like I say, interview Jean-Claude and Scott Adkins, and Jean-Claude grabbed me by the suit jacket and pulled me in for some vague threats, and yeah, it was nice.
Okay, then. Quite the character.
That is.
Was he doing a Universal Soldier type promotion, or was he just being weird as fuck like he usually is?
Oh, that was odd, wasn't it? No. This I think this was generally weird. The Universal thing, that was all staged, though, wasn't it? I think him and Dolph come up. Was it Cannes or something? And they just wanted to stick out, didn't they? So he came up with the bright idea of having a fake fight start on the
right.
Red carpet. It worked because we're talking about it. When did that come out? 92. So we're talking about that 20 years later, I guess.
You never know what you're going to get from.
Yeah.
Was that from the first one?
Yeah, it was from the original.
Nice.
Yeah. Cool. Where do you want to start then for this?
How were you a fan of some of these 80s and 90s icons like Planet Hollywood, Bruce Willis, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sylvester Stallone, as well as Jean-Claude Van Damme, Dolph Lundgren?
This is pretty much my genre. I love action. 80s action, 80s, 90s, modern day, any action. I love action. So, yeah, this is good for me. I mean, Stallone, Schwarzenegger, Van Damme is my favourite by far. But,
very nice.
Yeah.
And, I mean, this was cool in that even those who weren't as familiar with some of the supporting actors like Gary Daniels, Eric Roberts, is like, this is a cool intro to them. Jason Statham's star had taken off, so it made sense that he was joining with them. And I wasn't surprised when, they put Mickey Rourke, Wesley Snipes, and Mel Gibson, Antonio Banderas in there. But I think all of them are pretty well used, save for Scott Adkins and
Jet Li.
Jet Li. Yeah,
Well,
The reason
you're glad they're in there, but at the same time, it's like you wish they could have maybe done it a few, maybe an era earlier.
The problem is when you've got a cast of actors who are that well established and that kind of big in their own head. I'm sure they've got egos and they're going to bring that to the set.
Unfortunately,
but for someone like Jet Li, I mean, it must have been hard to get that screen time, and I'm sure he fought for it. But
I think with Jet Li it was more of a.
It was a health.
Yeah, it was his health, wasn't it? That was part of the reason.
He had like arthritis or some shit, and
so that's why he's not in so much now. I mean, the Expendables 2, that's pretty much, if you look at what did he do, Badges of Fury after that, didn't he? That was the last real kind of semi-action thing. Everything after that, like,
now he does just a lot of historical drama, cameos, and played a mentally handicapped guy in this one biography movie. I was like, man, I never knew he could do a role like that. But
I suppose when your body fails on you, you've got to branch out. And if you chose in a profession where you have the opportunity to do that kind of stuff, then that's perfect. And there are people in this franchise that I wouldn't expect to have been in an action franchise. Take like Kelsey Grammer, for instance, from the third one.
Yeah,
like, Fraser.
Fraser Crane.
I want to sit down and have an intellectual discussion. I'd call Kelsey Grammer. I wouldn't call him to, break some POWs out there, a enemy camp. It just doesn't compute.
And I think, in all fairness, every interview I saw with Kelsey Grammer, he couldn't believe he was in it either. He just kept thanking everyone that for having him in it. So I don't even think he believed that he deserved to be in it, actually.
I mean, he beefed up for it, didn't he? Like, he had the muscle mass in his upper body.
I remember when he got cast, there was a funny article that was satiring just usual Hollywood news, and they're like, let's just call this the Republicans. Just all these right-wing leaning celebs are in it together. But yeah, it's very bizarre casting on Stallone's part, and you don't know how much of it is, they're affordable versus, but seriously, exactly. Why are they in it? Like, it has nothing to do with them being an action star.
Well, I mean, other than Wesley Snipes and Antonio Banderas, the third one, and Mel Gibson actually was a pretty good bad guy. It wasn't very well cast, the third one. I think that's why it failed, didn't it? Because the reason the first two done so well, it's the names in it were the love letter to the 80s and 90s.
Clint Powell had like some supporting roles, like he's a banker in The Dark Knight Rises, and then was in a few westerns. But even then, it's just pretty minor. Cullen Lutz, I had no issue with him. He had always kind of been in a lot of action movies.
Yeah.
But Ronda Rousey, she just wasn't ready. She has some funny moments, but everything else I've seen her in, like other than one of those 911 shows, I just feel like she's just not ready to be an action star.
But that wasn't what the audience wanted to see. The reason the first two done so well is because people like us, or like me, were going to see it for the names of the 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
And then, Expendables 3, it was just the young cast that they were trying to appeal to younger audiences. And that's...
I suppose with any kind of franchise, you've got to think about the future of it, and to have.
It was weird because we complained so much about the CGI in them, and yet at the same time, like I thought the fights were still good, but yet there's a lot of wasted moments in both part 2 and part 3 where it's just like, okay, part 2 they're doing so much of Dolph making fun of his chemical engineering degree and everything, and it just doesn't go anywhere. It's like there's so much dead space. I want to see them come up with just more funny, like making fun of the cat and mouse between the good guys and the bad guys or some shit like that, instead of we're all eating cookies together and cussing like sailors. That got old fast. And yes, part 3, they take forever to train them, and it's just like it's a great payoff at the end, but you gotta sit for some stupid moments in between where it's like, okay, this is just silly.
Yeah.
It just falls into that thing. Bad Boys 3 was the same. Bad Boys 4. You have like the old guys, Will Smith and Martin Lawrence, and then you have the new
everyone's coming back. They're giving you what you want, but at the same time, it's a little much.
It is. And they always do the same thing. They always take the piss out of the old guys because they're old. It's like, oh, you can't run very fast, or you can't do this, or oh, all right, Grandpa. It's just like, why do that? You know,
It's
they're the ones
macho
that-
energy. It works in a wrestler mentality, but that's just it. The rest of the audience watching this, they're not wrestlers. They got a limit to all the gags. You got to push the story forward before it just gets old. So
Absolutely. But
I have high prospects for part 4. I think that they're going in a direction where they should have gone to begin with. Just Stallone may or may not, may get injured or die, and he passes the torch to Statham. I'm like, that's where part 2, I think, should have gone.
Yeah, actually, yeah, okay, I kind of see what you said. Because they could have. That's kind of an excuse to then move on with younger characters. I don't think, other than Tony Jaa and Iko, I don't think part 4 has got the best cast. I mean, why is 50 Cent in it? Why not just get someone?
He was supposed to be in part 1.
He was meant to be part 1, but then also that was originally meant to be Wesley Snipes, wasn't it? His character, but then it was going to go to Forrest Whitaker, and then he pulled out.
I thought Whitaker was playing like a dictator guy or some shit.
I read that he was meant to be for the Terry Crews character.
Oh, okay.
But then
I remember those message boards kept varying on those to where it's just like, can you please release some more info on this? Because even IMDb doesn't begin to cover even the gist of this.
Yeah. But I don't know, like with 50 Cent, I don't know why they didn't put like Michael John White.
He pretty much, it's the escape plan connection. He's just been in some of those New Image and Stallone films. So I thought he's okay, but until Power TV show came along, he hadn't really evolved as much of it as an actor. And it was like, okay, well, you better do something really cool that's worthwhile of that instead of we just need him in there. Like you would be better off getting someone like Ice-T or even DMX back in the day if you're going to get a rapper. Kick ass.
DMX is with Seagal, isn't he? He's thrown his.
Yeah, and it is wild how they kept wanting to get Seagal, and it's like, well, he doesn't get along with the producers of this, so that's not happening.
Well, the producer screwed him, didn't he? And out of years ago for some of his films.
Well, and the thing is, he's more impossible to work with than Van Damme in his heyday. So
yeah. Well,
it's a lose-lose. It's wild how Zoom wasn't as much of a thing back then. They could have totally zoomed him in and worked the cameo in that way. To where he's a bad guy on
it. Yeah, I mean, he's not in any of his films anyway now. It's always a backwards.
Yeah, what would be the purpose anyway if we can't even see him in a fight scene? So it is.
I think that's more of a stand up as well, like Chuck Norris. It would be quite cool to see him in it, I think. But
it was wild how they incorporate Chuck in here because it's just like you fall into basically three categories. You either like everything he's done, or you like his cheesy 80s movies, or you like his Walker Texas Rangers show. And I was just one of those. I don't think he's much of an actor, but I cannot deny that he's got some serious kicks. And at the same time, like, those jokes are just outrageous. They keep telling him. He doesn't push he doesn't do push-ups. He pushes the earth down or some shit like that.
They wanted to put the meme in there, and it was his wife that chose the meme about the cobra.
And he wanted the part 2 to be PG-13. He's like, for real? What the fuck, dude?
They're much better R-rated. I think again that's why the third one failed as well. So
just for a second, going back to Seagal, like you met him, didn't you?
Oh yeah.
And did you really?
The guy's an arse. He really is.
Do you know what? The funniest thing I have to bring this
what
up.
Tasteless joke did he tell you?
No, it wasn't even that, right? So when you go to conventions and things like that, you do photo ops where you get to go in and stand next to your favorite actor and get a picture taken. Well, Colin's in the queue, waiting to go in for his photo, and I'm off to the side, and I can kind of see in there and see what's going on. And so this guy in a wheelchair, right, rolls in, parks up next to Steven Seagal, right? And you would imagine any other normal celebrity would like kneel down or take a knee or, bend down.
I hope you don't kneel down in front of Seagal, actually.
But this guy, Seagal just stood there with his hands in his kind of over his,
his Seagal pose.
His skull pose, like folded hands in front of him.
Steven Seagal.
And the guy taking the picture was like, "Oh, okay, I'm going to take it." But so the guy comes rolling out after, with a massive smile on his face after meeting Seagal, and I take a look at the picture that he's got in his lap, and basically it's Seagal stood there, and then the photo ends, and it's just got the guy's head. Because of the wheelchair. And Seagal was such an ass, he didn't even bend down.
He didn't have the audacity to bend down, so like level with the guy in a wheelchair.
But bless this fella, he was so happy.
He's superior to him, even though he would totally do him. That would totally be his next movie. I must run someone over with a wheelchair to protect the environment.
I asked him when I met him whether he'd do the next Expendables. He was like, "Oh no, I don't want to do that rubbish." Like, God, you really need to do that rubbish because everything else you're releasing is dire. So
you're telling me, Seagal, any of your movies would play in a theater? This guy,
straight to
this guy. That's fucking awesome.
Totally bash Seagal on this.
So in terms of the fourth one, who's playing the villain? Who's the bad guy? Is it someone else?
I don't think it's Tony Jaa. Let me see.
No.
Who's the bad guy in part 4?
Because I think that's where I see.
Oh, it's Iko Uwais, I think, from the Raiders.
I don't think he's going to be the bad guy.
Maybe he's replacing Jet Li then, since Jet Li doesn't want to do these.
Maybe. But I think that's where Expendables 2 and 3 really shone, like with the bad guys. Jean-Claude Van Damme was an amazing bad guy. Yeah. And Mel Gibson, that was like the perfect role for him at the time, because obviously there was a load of shit about him in the press, and he obviously was seen as a bit of a racist person. So they put him in the bad guy, and he really played up to that bad guy role. Whereas the first one, you had David Zayas and
Eric Roberts. And you had Steve Austin.
Eric Roberts was really awesome. And I thought he was what I love about part 3 is I have the unrated Blu-ray, and you get more foul-mouthed language, that's clearly not PG-13 from Gibson, as well as some extended fight between him and Stallone. That dude can kick. But
they were just they were outtakes. That was Mel Gibson on set. Just
and that's why it was even funnier. They're making fun of his alter ego, and like you say, they're gonna have to have a really cool bad guy because Eric Roberts he and Stone Cold just swept. They swept the leg Karate Kid in Best of the Best style, man.
He
is still in specialist runaway train mode here, and even Dark Knight. It's just so hysterical how some people would joke he's better than Heath Ledger because he just has a tertiary villain role in that, and it was fun seeing him in this movie because he
dark in it, wasn't he? There was no some of the other bad guys have had slight humor in it, but Eric Roberts he was really dark in the first one.
He was dark, and it was cool that they connect it. It's as deep as they got with the CIA before it became Bruce doesn't want to do it anymore, so let's bring in Harrison Ford, he's taking care of all these guys, and he's spoofing his Star Wars role. He doesn't really care, and at the same time he's having fun. This is a weird combo, but it's just like it would have been cool to see him share a scene with one of those guys, and it's just wild how he's got those two other cronies who are his CIA right hands, and unfortunately, other than that one scene where they introduced that Dolph is working for them, Gary Daniels doesn't really get much to do, which is a shame because he's got a really awesome fight with Statham and Jet Li.
Yeah, he wasn't even meant to be in it, was it? It was only because Stallone. Well, he was maybe one of the henchmen, but he wasn't going to have a speaking part. It was only when they were throwing dialogue around and Stallone overheard them doing it that he writ a part in for Gary Daniels.
Oh, really? Okay, nice. Was that in the commentary track? I got that.
No, I don't know if you watch Scott Adkins' Art of Action on YouTube.
Yes, that's the show. But I didn't see that's when Daniels episode. So
he was talking about it in that, and it was kind of just through luck.
He's grateful of it. He's come a long way since the Fist of the North Star movie just totally fucked up his career and made him the direct-to-video guy whose movies premiered on HBO. But like you say, it was cool to have him in it because then it gave him like the second or third stage of his career where people would check out some of his straight-to-video karate movies now.
Yeah. Are you seen Blood Moon?
Yeah, Blood Moon. Yeah, I've seen all his films.
That is one of his best.
Oh, totally. And it was the original premise, and I guarantee you, it still gets played on those movie channels. It's just, and you can tell they love playing it. It's an easy crowd pleaser. It's on streaming oftentimes. It's
Yeah, see, we don't get a lot of those B movies over here. They don't play that sort of stuff, so I have to get it all on DVD. So it's
fine. I mean, it is wild how they become collector's items in some regions versus others. How there's even extended cuts for TV, and you're like, for real?
Yeah.
These obscure movies got multiple versions of them. Man, what trouble you got to go to just to find these obscure movies.
The fun is in the hunt, anyway.
It is in a way, and I like how it's kind of helped embrace a lot of those video hounds. And I mean, I had the Schlock Pit on to discuss the Dentist films, and he's like, they're pretty big overseas. I'm like, really? Okay, nice. So it was interesting just seeing how some movies are bigger in certain countries versus others where they're based, and you don't expect it. But is Stone Cold pretty big here in the UK still?
Oh yeah, I've got it.
Yeah, obviously because of WWE.
But I mean, it's
so wild because like before he really got into acting, he had a hysterical recurring role on Nash Bridges as a bounty hunter, and this kind of made him, other than The Longest Yard where he played one of the prison's guards. Yeah, it seemed like he was an action deal for a while, and then after he did like 5 movies and a few documentaries, he gave it up for reality TV.
The Condemned, that was a damn good movie. That was.
That was big in high school. I saw a lot of people who loved that movie. And
Vinnie Jones in that, he was an arsehole.
Why has he not been in The Expendables, though? Vinnie Jones should
that's a good point. Could have been, actually, yeah.
Vinnie Jones would be an awesome bad guy.
I just knew he would have just something hysterical to do, and he's actually come pretty far as an actor. Like, I really dig him on that recent arc on Law and Order, and, I mean...
I saw he was in that. I don't watch it, but I saw he posted on Instagram about getting his part in...
He was dynamite, dude. I couldn't believe it, and he had an interesting... I've never seen him play a gangster like that before, and he got gritty regardless of him being, foul-mouthed Vinny.
Yeah, he played a good serial. He's played a couple of good serial killers. Midnight Meat Train.
Midnight Meat Train. He turned down Rambo 4 for Midnight Meat Train.
Did he?
Yeah, he was meant to play the English.
It's all right. He wouldn't have had much to do, and
you got to weigh it up. Have you star in the film as the killer or be a bit part in a Stallone?
And then you got to see if you'll have anything to do with Stallone's ego. So I mean,
yeah.
And unfortunately, I mean, it kind of sucks that they took a while to incorporate Arnold into the movies, though. It's like
that was all through the government in politics and stuff, wasn't it?
Yeah, when the first one came out, and it was like, but
I remember everyone cheering in the cinema when all 3 of them were on screen together through the because that was like
in the church.
Yeah, that was pretty much the Planet Hollywood crew there, wasn't it? So it was,
they had done restaurants together, and
yeah. I think egos had settled by that point.
Yeah. I've seen Andy Garcia's.
That's who it is. Yes, awesome. Andy's in it. So let's weigh in on him. He's been doing some presidential roles, and I really like that recent Carl Urban movie he was in, Bent. I would describe it as kind of Serpico meets Taken, but he looked like he was showing his age there. So I really hope that when he gets incorporated here, he has a good close up and not an awkward what looks like ADR and.
Yeah, I mean
that's a big star. Godfather Free, Untouchables, Jennifer.
Desperate Measures with Michael Keaton. That was a fantastic film.
Yeah, the go-to guy for playing a kick-ass detective, and Ocean's 11 showed that he could be very subtle and smooth, and it's like, yeah.
So if I was to look at that cast list for the 4th one and pick out a bad guy, not like the main kind of, not like the physical bad guy, but the mastermind.
That's who it is. Yeah. So good catch. As much prep as we did for this, I totally spaced on the fact that he was in it. So
we think Megan Fox is going to be like the Ronda Rousey of Expendables 4, or is she going to be a love interest for one of the other characters?
I actually have a good feeling about her because she's kind of like Keanu Reeves, where she hasn't always done the best movies, and been limited as an actor. But I think she's been interesting in that she's found a way to be healthier with her personal life and been very cool as a person. So I think that's just it too. Now at this point, she's just happy to do a bunch of other giant blockbusters. And I have a good feeling. I hope she's well used. I don't know what she'll be utilized as. If it's any different than Charisma Carpenter, playing Jason Statham's girlfriend, hopefully it can be a little more than that. I never had an issue with Charisma in that. That was actually that was like the best movie she had done in a long time after being, the Buffy Angel chick and then doing a bunch of crappy TV movies.
I completely agree. But you say Megan, she just get engaged or something to, is it Machine Gun Kelly?
Yeah. I'm not too big on Machine Gun Kelly. He's a nice guy, but I can't get into his rap.
When they got engaged, they drank each other's blood. So what's that about?
Wait. Oh, well, so there you go. I've always seen allusions between her and Angelina Jolie, so she very well...
Jolie and Billy Bob Thornton did the whole blood thing, didn't they? Yeah.
She did a cool...
vial of blood around her neck or something like that of him.
Well, and she did a watchable video on demand limited serial killer thriller where she was playing a detective alongside her boss, played by Bruce Willis. So I think she could be an okay... If she wants to keep doing action movies, they can't be any cheesier than that movie where she was hunting tigers. So
fair enough. Yeah.
If she wants to keep doing these B-rate movies, cool, go with it. I think she's come a long ways from just being the Transformers and sex icon gal. I think she can do a little more than this at this point.
Yeah, I really enjoyed her in the TMNT movies.
Yeah, that was an interesting parallel as well. Is like, okay, she's still working with Michael Bay, but now she's going to a different standard where now, I mean, a lot of people shitted on the first one and acknowledged the second one. I just thought those were just fun. They didn't pretend to be anything.
I enjoyed both of them.
Yeah. People are so overly critical these days. Everything has to be a masterpiece or has to be...
It has to be on this same level. Like, whenever a fantasy movie came out, everyone had to compare it to Game of Thrones or Lord of the Rings. It's like, or you can just like it as a cheesy Highlander-esque type movie and just go with it.
No, completely. I don't want to have to think about everything I watch all the time. If I want to watch... This is what...
Just don't be dull and... Yeah. It's a shame that they cannot convince The Rock to join the cast, and he keeps saying, I'm not ready for it in this one video interview.
I mean, I suppose you got to look at it through his eyes.
He would have to take a pay cut. I get that.
Oh, yeah, completely, yeah.
But it would be worth just to do $10K for the day, and just literally all he would have to do is just show up and punch someone in the face.
Well, I mean, Schwarzenegger done it for him in... was it Welcome to the Jungle?
Yeah, the rundown. Yeah.
He was passing the torch in. Throw the favour back. It's what,
Pay the favor back, especially when his career had a rough evolution, but it's leagues better ahead of, say, Vin Diesel or any of these other action stars. I think Frank Grillo is long overdue. Samuel Jackson, I wish, was doing these as opposed to the Avengers, but he's not going to do that. That's easy money.
Going back to what we talked about last time, Eddie Murphy. I think Eddie Murphy would be great.
There's even a Facebook page someone made years ago, put Val Kilmer or Eddie Murphy in the Expendables. And I was like, do it.
John Travolta and Nicolas Cage were meant to be in them as well, weren't they?
That's what the rumor was. And then Charlie Sheen was attached before, and then his scandal happened, and they're like, we don't want to bring him on anymore.
I can see Emilio Estevez, but he's a bit...
Emilio would have been fun, but he's a director now.
But then you could kind of go down the B-movie route and get people like Don the Dragon Wilson.
Joe Estevez, but Don the Dragon Wilson would be amazing.
Billy
Regno.
All those sort of, even if they just like got little bits in it, for people like me, that'd still be.
It's a shame Frank Zagarino retired and didn't want to do any more cheesy movies. He would have been hysterical.
Yeah.
I think Kurt Russell as well. I think
Kurt Russell.
That's why I lost some respect for him. He was offered these fucking movies, and he decided to do Fast and Furious instead, playing Mr. Nobody. And he's like, I don't want. And both he and Michael Biehn had the same excuse. They were like, I don't want to do a fucking ensemble movie. I'm like, and yet you did Grindhouse and all these other Tarantino movies. What the fuck, dude?
Yeah, I suppose you could argue that Kurt Russell chose the more successful franchise, because the parts were essentially the same. If he was going to play Mr. Church or Mr. Nobody,
he could have done both. Make both crowds happy. But
true.
Yeah.
I mean, Jesus.
But then I'm not sure I would have liked him as a CIA guy. I would have liked him a bit more as a character, like Jack Burton.
He could have just been a CIA guy who just, I don't know, sells nukes or something. Or
it could be anything little like that.
He could have trained Stallone or something.
I mean, Stallone wants to do Tango and Cash too, doesn't he?
I would love that.
Then at
But
least do it, because they're getting up there.
Yeah, I know, but like Kurt Russell,
Don't do more Guardians of the Galaxy's cameos. Do an actual legit follow-up.
he doesn't want to do it. Kurt Russell is like, no. And now also there's rumours of Carpenter want to do a sequel to The Thing with him, isn't it?
Well, one of my pals, John Cannon, was a stuntman on Out for Justice, where he got stomped on by Seagal, and he was on the set of Tango and Cash, and there was a fight scene he was in with Kurt Russell that got cut, apparently.
Oh,
That's just it. So I think he never got over that, how Stallone was constantly, just like he was under editing Rutger Hauer, who should have totally been in these before he passed away, moments in Nighthawks and James Woods and The Specialist, same kind of deal there. Is like, Kurt got a better scene than me. I got to edit that out. I can't have him. So I think that's just it. I think because he knows of so much that he did, that he contributed, he never got over that, even though he respected the dude. You know?
Yeah.
He got to make the bet. He got to borrow his hack director, George Cosmatos, who Stallone was making his bitch, and he got to make him his bitch on Tombstone. So I think that's ultimately what he got out of it.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
Because Vic Armstrong, the dude from Indiana Jones and Gangs of New York, acclaimed stunt coordinator and second unit director, he apparently helped reshoot Cosmatos' Escape from Athena, Roger Moore, Lee Marvin World War II movie, and he's like, we were shooting in Greece and everyone fucking hated working with Cosmatos. He was a prick. So I think that's just it. I think Expendables was a real eye-opener onto that. When they were going for directors, they too often went for has-beens or Stallone. So who is helming the upcoming one? That's what I want to know. That's what I really care about.
Who is helming?
Because there's so many guys who could do it, like Antoine Fuqua or even John Woo if he wanted to, but they won't.
Oh, John Woo, that'd be awesome, actually. Yeah, no, I can't see. They wouldn't. They don't seem to trust him, do they?
I think that's just it. I think they know how Stallone acts. They've heard all the stories, so they're afraid he's going to give them notes and insert random bullshit that's not even in the script. So I think that's just it. I mean, I would love it if they did Michael Bay, but I know that's controversial because everyone wants to shit on Michael Bay.
Yeah, that would be. I don't know about Michael Bay. That'd just be explosions around.
I mean, that's ultimately what we're gonna get.
I guess it is, but yeah, I mean,
If it's Bad Boys Michael Bay, I'm down with it. But if it's Transformers Michael Bay, no thanks. That's
what I was getting at, Transformers side of things. But yeah, I don't know how on this one. It's
the same guy that directed the Need for Speed adaptation, Scott.
Oh, well then
he's a former stuntman, isn't he? So he
his
knows how to shoot a good scene.
Well, and fun fact, his stuntman turned director brother is Rick Romanwag, who did Angel Has Fallen, Snitch with The Rock, and Felon with Val Kilmer. So yeah, Shot Caller. He's the go-to for action crime movies. So yeah, no, I mean, Scott Wag, he did pretty good considering what he was trying to do with Need for Speed. That was an 80s tribute movie, and then Act of Valor was his 90s, men on a mission kind of movie while being a recruitment ad. And I was like, okay, cool. You want to do action movies? Go for it. You know what you're doing, at least, unlike most people.
Yeah. So it's probably in good hands with him, isn't it? Really.
There's definitely going to be some gory headshots. I promise you. But I take it you guys were already big Atkin fans.
I am, yeah.
It's amazing. Some people still don't know him, and they don't realize how much of him they've seen. They're like, "Come on, he's the guy who fights at the end of Doctor Strange." I'm like, "Come on."
Yeah, well, I mean, we've met him quite a few times. I've trained with him as well.
Really?
Yeah, I have. Yeah, and we go to over here. There's a Fighting Spirit Film Festival, which is basically just action-based film festival. And he's an ambassador there, and we interviewed him once, but we messed up the sound.
Oh, do you know what? That really bugs me because I found that footage the other day.
For the debt collector, that was we had the opportunity to interview him for that.
The mics were just not working for some reason. So there's like half an hour of me sat down talking to the director, Scott Adkins.
Jesse V. Johnson, Scott Adkins, Louis Mandel, wasn't it? He was out in there as well. And we just totally messed up the sound for it, so we didn't get anything.
They didn't ask us back.
No, they didn't.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, no,
what were they promoting?
That was the Debt Collector they were promoting then.
Oh, shit. Man.
Yeah, we also went to the Action Man premiere. Then we got there. We've been to quite a few of his. What else did we go to? Oh, Triple Threat. We went to.
See, when I saw that, and I saw Michael Wong, a big Hong Kong superstar, and Michael J. White in that, I was like, why the fuck are they not in the Expendables there? You know?
Michael J. What they're missing out with that, without him in there. But
I know Keanu Reeves was considered, but Avi Lerner, again, the producer fucked around with him, talking shit about him, and on a project he didn't sign up for. And I think he read this material and he's like, this just is too dumb. And it's a shame because he's a 90s action icon, you know, Speed, Point Break, and now John Wick. And I'm like, it's a shame that I'm glad Atkins is going to be in John Wick 4.
John Wick 4, isn't he? I mean, the cast of that, Donnie Yen is going to be, oh man.
Donnie Yen. And they tried to get him, and like, even though they were filming in like parts of China for part 2, it did not work. And I'm like, they should have totally gotten him on there before Star Wars Rogue One and Triple X Freed came out. Like, it would have been perfect.
Yeah. Well, Donnie Yen's above and beyond, doesn't he? I mean, he just seems to get better with age, really, with the films he's doing and stuff. It's just, SPL and all that sort of stuff. It's just Killzone, everything like it. He's just brilliant, Donnie Yen.
Yeah, he really is dynamite. Even if you don't like the movie per se, is like, you can't say you didn't feel something from that.
Yeah, he was. That's John Wick 4. That's going to be something to look forward to. That comes out.
And how rare can you say where you're looking forward to 2 sequels coming out all at once? You know, I can't think of any other movies that done that. I mean, Avengers is doing it to death, and I'm like, okay, but when is the premise going to end? It's just too much all at once. All I see is money at this rate. I want to actually
that's true.
Look forward to something and then say, and that's it. Like, for instance, Denzel did 2, Equalizer movies back to back, waited a while. Now they did finally announce part 3 is coming out. And I'm like, perfect. But that was worth the wait. They saw the supply and demand that they're looking at here. It was natural. And I mean, it wasn't like with Taken where, okay, cool, we want to see Liam Neeson kicking ass, but it's too much all at once. And you rushed it on the part where, the scripts suck and the fights are overdone.
Too quickly, don't they, in between each other? It's better to let it breathe.
I think the problem is nowadays audiences are so fickle. They don't necessarily care about wanting the script to be good. They just want to see more of the same thing. And studios,
many movies Will Smith signed up for, he would always say half the time they would give him an incomplete script to where he's like, well, I don't want to accept it unless I get a say in rewriting it now. So
and the studios are just worried that they have a potential franchise. All studios want to do is build franchises at this point. I think that's evident.
Yeah, they don't have to worry about it. The shit writes itself, but it's just so alarming because then in a way, this has also ruined it for a lot of indie and new filmmakers, new blood, because it's like they'll always be compared to what's hot out there now. It sucks that when someone comes out with a bunch of movies involving ninjas and assassins, they instantly get the Pulp Fiction or John Wick comparisons. And like you say, I even went to film school, and constantly I would see people who just didn't like action movies. They wanted to do just crappy horror movies in their backyard or just depressing dramas. I'm like, I don't want any of that. I want to find how to do some kind of movie that I would pay to see. And right now you're telling me, audiences don't want this. Yes, they fucking do. And it sucks because you can't, action on a page reads as so-and-so kicks so-and-so, they fall down, and it sucks that how you pretty much have to detail this with people and, do all this extra stuff that isn't necessarily in the script, but you outline it and make sure it reads on screen. And it's just,
it's harder to sell, isn't it?
And when the so-called professionals who you love aren't doing your homework, it almost makes you wonder, well, why should I even bother trying to do my homework? You guys are fucking around. You got all the money in the world. You're just getting spoiled.
I mean, action, it seems to be quite diverse now as well, isn't it? Like with shaky cam and all that sort of stuff, how it's shot and what you can see and what you can't see. Like, I think Snake Eyes, that got hit for...
Yeah. So, I mean, it all varies. I had some people say they couldn't see what was going on in Hitman's Bodyguard. I saw it fine, but then again, I can handle Taken and Born Identity, but then there's other ones like Dark Knight Rises. Oh, no, thank you. I like you, Nolan, but you're a mystery guy. You're not an action guy. Can't see shit.
And then I think also where I mostly watch like old school Hong Kong cinema and stuff.
Yeah. And
where it's all shot in wide and everything like that, it's quite hard to then sit down and watch something like Bourne. And I use that because everyone seems to dump on that for how it was shot. But like the action's just too quick, at least in the older stuff. And even like John Wick now, you can see it. It's easier to see, sort of thing, than how some...
I mean, even Jason Statham and Tony Scott movies vary. There's some where you can see, and there's others where it's like, I see what's going on, but it's not exciting. It's too over-edited.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm hoping... given what Rick did on his last dozen movies, I think he'll shoot the action pretty competently, not where it's all sped up, where there's a lot of steady cam. It's all pretty well storyboarded.
Yeah.
But it's an interesting predicament. You wonder, again, just what the story will entail. And so, I mean, Tony Jaa, it seems like he was kind of trying to do what Jackie Chan and Donnie were doing, and then he kind of started doing just cameos in movies because all everyone saw him as was the Ong Bak guy.
Yeah, I mean, but then again, he fell into all that trouble with I don't know with the
studio.
With the studio he was in. I mean, what's that one he done with Dolph Lundgren? That is not Skin Trade. The other. Oh
one, yeah, Skin. Yeah, that's the one. Skin Trade.
No, he's also done another.
Right. They did a movie that didn't get released.
What was that? A man? Oh, I can't remember what it's called.
It was like a Man with No Name type tribute meets East meets West.
And never got released. It's all shot, but they won't release it because of the fact that I don't know who brought him out of his contract or something. But they're just like, no, we're not releasing it now. But I think after that, I don't know whether it was because he was trying to crack Hollywood or whatever. But it was only. He only seemed to get bit parts that never used him correctly. Oh yeah,
so, the Fast and Furious was pretty bad. I was
lot of people say that he's given up. I don't think he's given up. I just think it's he hasn't been able to show his strength in American audiences, because if you look at him in was that SP Alley? Was it?
He was in Killzone 3. I think.
I mean that. What he did in that was awesome.
And no one talks about it. I'm like, why not?
And what was the other film he done recently? Was it Detective? Was it Chinatown Detective 3 or something, or what?
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the fight scene on the train in there, that sort of thing. It was just, people are saying that it's because in America he's not been given the opportunity to shine, which hopefully in Expendables 4, as it's got Statham in it, maybe. But saying that, Triple Threat.
I hope he gets a good fight and not just a brief "Hello, I'm here to kill you." But
I mean, Triple X 2 or 3 or whatever the hell that was it?
Yeah, that was batshit crazy.
Crash. That was. I mean, they didn't use him or Donnie Yen in that very well, I don't think.
Yeah, Yen is pretty much there to just overact and everything and just give weird faces. And Jaa, he's limited to, again, much like Triple X, just a quick, barely even a fight, just doing computer tech stuff. And it's like, that's not really what I want to see him doing. I'm kind of this way with Iko Uwais. I thought he was great in Man of Tai Chi. I think he's fine in The Raid. I'm just not fond of how that action shot. Controversial opinion, but
the first one or the second one?
The second one had some good fights. I don't like any of the characters, and so I'm just not. It's just not a diehard movie that stands out for me like so many people thought it did. And but I love Iko. I think he's just so natural. Like, I just get a sense of emotion from him, and he keeps doing a lot of stuff just yearly. And much like some of those other guys like Mark Dacascos and Kane Kusagi, I'm glad that he's found his niche. He has a loyal audience, and much like Daniels, he gets overlooked because more people want to work with Jay White and Jaw and Adkins than them.
Yeah.
And
I mean, Mark Dacascos, that guy. Again,
I'm surprised he hasn't been in one of these.
Yeah,
I'm glad he was in John Wick 3, but I mean,
yeah, some of his films again, they're way overlooked. I mean, Drive, that's just ridiculously good. That was before its time. Drive, I think that was.
Yeah, I totally recommend One Night in Bangkok and
One Night in Bangkok. I've got that to watch. I've got it, but I haven't watched it yet.
I think you'd dig it, especially if you like Collateral and Wick type movies. But I mean, there's so many others who they could have used, but they just didn't. And you just wondered if it was just they were too expensive or Stallone just said no. But it's like, there's so many. If you're going to do a big
trip, they're not on Stallone's radar, then he's probably not going to put them in there, is he? So he may know who they are, but he just may not think they've got the star power to be recognisable in the franchise.
That's true, but you look at the fourth one, he wanted Jack Nicholson to be the bad guy. That would have been insane.
That would have been fun. He's joked about how Clint Eastwood could direct part 2. I'm like, well, that would have been interesting, but I don't know what would have happened.
Yeah. Pierce Brosnan as well. I think Pierce Brosnan, he
was rumored to be in.
He was
he had done movies for those producers, and so it seemed likely, and he's like, give a number, let's have fun. And I was like, they just didn't do it, and I'm like, come on.
Well, I mean, even Jackie Chan was rumoured to be in part 2, wasn't it? But he turned it down because he said he didn't want a little bit role. So
Jean-Claude wants to come back.
Yeah.
There was rumours of that from the second one when he died.
He would
come
be
back
cool.
and be a good guy.
Yeah, I don't know how much of that is true, but it would be interesting. You know, it would be fun if there were. They talked about it with Stone Cold and they talked about it with Van Damme, and just the rumor mill would have been interesting if they had actually gone for it. But I don't know. It just seems like, again, there's just some disconnection between what the fans want versus what the studios will actually do, and it's just like, well, start paying attention. Like, pay even more attention to the forums this time, guys.
Yeah.
I mean, there's you could put together your fantasy Expendables cast list.
Instead of fantasy football or baseball. There's
so many guys. There's so many guys that are just a bit too old now. Like, I think Peter Weller would be awesome. He'd be an awesome bad guy. Peter Weller would be a great bad guy. And someone like, if they went to Australia for a mission or something like that, Paul Hogan, Crocodile Dundee. Like, can you imagine that if he was a bit younger?
That would have been hysterical.
Local man on the ground.
I can name plenty of other B movie stars. Casper Van Dien would have been hysterical. Kiefer Sutherland, even Richard Dean Anderson. That gets some MacGyver stuff in it. That'd be hysterical.
That would be amazing. Gerard Butler is another one. I think he's done some really great.
I've been saying that. I'm so glad you said it, but it's like. That's not going to happen, unfortunately, because apparently they fucked him on his Olympus Has Fallen contract, so he's taking them to court currently. So it's really a shame how they've treated people like Van Damme and Dolph pretty well, and yet a lot of these other guys keep getting money that they never end up getting. And it's like, Avi, man, you can't. You're going to go the way of Canon Films, which is what you excel from. If you do, Avi learned the producer is like, if you do not be honest, people are going to talk shit about you and you'll be done.
I think this franchise pretty much revived quite a lot of these actors' careers as well.
It was a really big hit, and unfortunately, I don't know why it hasn't landed with certain audiences and why it's just taken them so long to make each one. It really should not be this hard.
No, it definitely peaked at 2 as well. I think the first one was okay. Second one was great. Third one for me, it just felt like a passing the torch film that didn't work out. And we'll see what happens with the fourth. I mean, it's been, 8 years?
I hope it's the true sequel they always should have done, but it's a shame that it took them this long, because this could have, they thought about doing a TV show with one of those NCIS LA guys. I'm like, no thanks. That'd just be too dorky.
Or the women, wasn't it? Was it the women?
They did one of those, didn't they? Katie Sackhoff was in it. And
No. Wait, what?
They did a film. It's not associated, but they did like a female version of the Expendables. And
I thought that was a ripoff by the Asylum.
Oh yeah, it totally was.
But I don't think Katie was in it. Some other blonde gal.
I swear she was in it, or maybe she was petitioning to be in the legit version. But
that might have been it. I'm totally down with that because even years before Mandalorian, I was like, this gal is a tough chick. She's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I remember back from Halloween Resurrection.
2 years before Battlestar. Oh man. And I think that's just it too, is like they just struggled to find gals who they bought, and it's like, well, come on, some of them are already in front of us. Get Linda Hamilton, get Charlize Theron, Sigourney Weaver, and I don't know why. I think the other issue is they had a crappy director attached to it, and that's just it. They keep hiring people who do comedy, not action. And this is like, stop it.
I mean, I understand there's that intrinsic link between comedy and action, just like there is with horror and comedy. You want that relief.
Fair enough. Some of them are big fans.
Yeah, you want a big action scene, and then you want a little light-hearted comedy to kind of relax and slow your pulse down before you jump into something else. But if it goes too far in that comedic direction, you're just going to lose that audience that just love those hardcore 80s action films. And that's what they're there for. And I think that's exactly what happened in this case.
Well, you can say it with the revival of Halloween now, can't you? It's thrown back to work.
Well, that's the connection I thought he was going for, since that was by a bunch of comedians. So
So it's kind of like
But Stallone can be really funny. He can. But
everyone hates it, but I love
even Jackie Chan.
On a shoot. I love that. I love that film.
And look at Arnold in Kindergarten Cop.
Junior, yeah.
Oh, totally.
Brilliant stuff,
Twins.
So I like Bruce. I even like Dolph in comedies.
I liked Bruce Willis. I liked him until I saw some of the shit that he just got up to recently. And I think he was doing press for Red 2, and he was just like a right arsehole.
Yeah. I've heard a rumor that he has dementia.
Oh, really?
But see, I thought the ones he came out with initially weren't bad. Like, I really dug Marauders and Precious Cargo, but then, yes, there were some more recent ones where it's just like, even though he seems to be smiling and having an okay time and not being the prima donna that Kevin Smith says he is, it just, the movies are just too cheaply shot. And the same deal with Randy Couture. He should have been tearing up the direct-to-video department, and yet just...
Agreed.
He hasn't found that meter. And Mickey Rourke, I mean, again, he's got all those great 80s movies, and then you got all this, some of his recent stuff has been worse than, what he was doing in his heyday. And it's like,
he doesn't look like Mickey Rourke anymore, does he? That's like...
And he keeps fucking up his face.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It doesn't even look like him anymore. It's just, I done that picture I saw of him the other day. It looked like he had a Michael Myers mask on.
Yeah.
That picture that come out. It was just like,
I only hope that, they find their gist. They just fire their agents. And I know Bruce is doing something with Jesse V. Johnson, so there's hope for that. And it's got a action film with Travolta. But yeah, some of those other ones have been almost as bad as what you see Seagal or even Nick Cage doing, where it's like, oh, guys, stop it with these all Taken clones. Just do something new.
Well, with Hollywood action these days, there's a period back in the 90s where you had some amazing action films. You had like Broken Arrow, Face Off, The Rock. You had Air Force One. They were great action films, right? I just don't feel like we're getting anywhere near the caliber of those films.
Not even with Non-Yu or Liam Hemsworth. And I mean, as much as I like Terry Crews, he's underused in these movies. And it just seems like they just need to just find people who are just badasses and just put them in here. I think they could put Nick Nolte in here after Being an Angel Has Fallen, but it'd be also a little too cringy at times, maybe. So I don't know.
You saying about Terry Crews, he's someone who does comedy as well as action.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he's a genius, Terry Crews.
He's great, yeah. And I even dug him in action movies like Street Kings and what have you. Yeah. And I was just like, but now he's just stuck being the comedy guy, and he got groped by Stallone's agent at a party. So I don't know. I think
that's why he's not coming back for the fourth, isn't it, or something? I think
that's why they were thinking maybe we should kill him. No, let's not. He's injured. But I'm like, well, why did this have to be overthought? I mean, go with it and stick with it,
Yeah. What were you going to say? I interrupted you.
No, I was just saying, I think Terry Crews is a phenomenal actor. Like, he can obviously do action. He's got the physique for it.
He's a decent dramatic guy, yeah.
Yeah.
At many levels. He's a spiritual guy, and that complements his acting.
Yeah, absolutely. Unfortunately, I think in the first one, he was just the black guy that was in it. You know, they needed to have that role and
represent, baby.
Absolutely. But it's just a shame that they didn't then develop that character more. He was just seen as that guy, you know, and that was such a shame.
Mm-hmm. Yep, it could have been better.
And then obviously the unfortunate incident outside of the movieverse happened, and here we are now where we, you know, don't have that solid representation in the film.
Yeah, I can only hope that they find some better guys, and I just don't know why they didn't pick Michael J. White's.
I don't know either that.
I mean, we don't know the full story. You know, he may have not wanted to do it. You don't know.
Well,
can't say.
In when he got shot in.
He got shot?
In the film. Terry Crews.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were talking about Michael J. White.
He was shooting Brooklyn Nine-Nine, didn't he, at the time? That's why he couldn't be in it.
Right.
Quite as much. So.
Yeah, I think he's going to use that a little more just because of how rocky things got between him and Stallone. And shame on Stallone for even just saying, yeah, you know, I should fire my agent. You know, my producer's got my back. But then he wastes time doing another Rambo. And it's just like, no, see, what was that about? It's like he didn't want to do him anymore. He was getting fed up working with Abby Lerner, even though he owed his career come back to him. And it's just like, so I think this is it. It's just too much of ego stroking and just taking forever in between just kind of got the best of them at times. It's easy to get burned out because this is a hard industry. This is a hard business. So, I mean, I can only hope.
When to stop as well, isn't it? Because you look at some of these great action franchises that we've seen over the years, like Die Hard and the Rambo films and Rocky and all that kind of stuff. And you think they're so good to a point. Like, you get to Die Hard 4, and I really like Die Hard 4. I think it's better than the third one. That's something that Colin gives me a load of shit about. He really likes the third one.
Both 3 and 4 are pretty good. I'll take them over part 2, but yeah.
Dude, part 2 is the best.
No, part 1 is the best.
The best.
How is it the best? The villains have no persona. The action scenes are still in between the laughable.
You're going down a dark.
Passenger 57 is great. Executive Decision is even more ballsy than that movie. Any Die Hard on a plane movie is way better. And just the plot contrivances. Oh my God.
There's just something about the second one that I just love. And
give me the airport scene in Expendables 2 over any of Die Hard 2.
Yeah,
that's true. But then you get to the fifth one and it's awful. And the same happened, you know, with multiple other franchises over the years.
The thing with part 5 is it's trying to be like the Expendables. It's not trying to be like a Die Hard movie. That's the problem.
The reason they keep doing it is that people just keep throwing money out.
Yeah.
That's why.
Yeah.
And these go through so many just development stages to where you have 5 writers attached to the average blockbuster, and you're like, what? What could it have consisted of other than so-and-so shoots, you know, Alan Rickman impersonator number 5, you know,
yeah. I mean, I like this. I like the premise when the Rambo Savage Hunt was floating around, where he was trying to track down some sort of.
It made better sense as opposed to, hey, I'm going to be Charles Bronson and hunt South American generic bad guys. It's just like, what?
Yeah.
Well,
the fourth one rounded it off so well, they didn't.
Yeah, it did. They should have ended it with the fourth. But Homefront with Jason Statham, that was the original script for part.
Yeah, that would have been way better. And yet, and that's just it too. I haven't, after Homefront, I haven't really enjoyed as many of Statham's standalone movies, but I hope he gets something better.
I quite enjoyed Wrath of Man. I thought that was
good. I can't do Guy Ritchie, but I'll get. I just don't remember anything about it. I tried twice with it. I was like, this is just so generic. It just reminds me of the Money Grabbers with Brian Brown, except not good.
There was just no emotion coming from him in that film. When he was just in the gunfights and he was shooting people, it just looked bored.
I don't know. I quite enjoyed it.
Yeah,
I quite enjoyed that one.
I guess we can't all like the same.
No, we cannot. That's what. No.
But we can at least agree that Safe and Homefront are action classics. So it's just like
Homefront is awesome. That was a really good film. That was, yeah.
And I just felt like he and Gerard Butler. It'd be so funny if they were playing narc cops and everything. I'm so glad that Den of Thieves is still happening and Gerard's going on and doing a few other things. So it's like we got our action stars, we got our heroes, our icons, but it's just hard. It's more of a maze because instead of just being on a big screen or a video store, it's just like everyone's famous 1 minute and then irrelevant the rest of the decade. There's too much inconsistency because the market's changing. So it stinks that it's gotten to that point. So this has been fun, guys. So glad having you on here once again.
Thank you very much.
No worries. Thanks for having us back.
And yeah, just want to talk a little bit about Movie Rankers, what you got coming up?
What we've got coming up, we've got, we are going to be having a few interviews coming up with a few people. We've got Mark Strange, he should be coming on to have a chat with him.
Oh.
Who else we got coming up?
We'll be going to the Fighting Spirit Film Festival this
Fighting
year.
Spirit, going back there. We're going to a few cons this year. What else we got? We've got a few bits. I can't think of what else we've got. Interviews coming up.
We really need to record that Die Hard podcast.
See, this is the thing is with that Die Hard. This is how it all started for us. It's a massive drunken argument.
It's the best action movie ever made.
I know, it was a drunken argument about us ranking it. We just couldn't get on with what. Because I think the third one's the best one, and then we just started this massive argument, and then this.
It wasn't an argument. It was a very long discussion.
Hans Gruber finds you in contempt.
The more beers you have, the more passionate you get about your list, and you're like, "No, you're wrong. No, you're wrong." And we just couldn't come to an agreement, and we thought, "Well, let's just let's do this, but for every franchise."
Which is what we are going to get. Well, so if you want to see stuff like that, then you can find us on Instagram and on Twitter and
on a good day, it's a great Friday night movie. On a bad day, it's a Sunday night movie.
Yeah,
because everybody has that opinion, right? Everybody's like, "Oh, well, I really like the second Beverly Hills Cop," and then the first.
Sometimes the hype just kills it for you, though, too.
Yeah, true.
Best sequel of all time. I mean, I enjoyed it. I don't like this movie. I don't like that movie.
But I find that so interesting that other people like things more or worse than you do, and you don't see eye to eye. You still love the franchise, both of you still love the franchise, but you just can't get on the same page about what's the best one and what's the worst one. It's
also funny how some of these movies have generic plots, and yet we're more bothered by them in other movies versus that, and you wonder, why is that? Is it because of my familiarity with this franchise versus this movie? It's
and you talk about how long film franchises go on for, and some you're like, "Oh, we should end it. We should really
just
end it."
Die already.
Then you look at Bond. You look at James Bond. It's been going for like 25 years. I know that's kind of different because you've got multiple actors in the role, but we would never say, "Oh, we don't want to ever see another Bond film."
Mm-hmm.
So it's just
staple.
Strange.
Funny how that goes. Well, thank you once again.
No problem.
Anytime, honestly.
Absolutely.
Cool.
We'll return after these messages.
Hey, feeling down? Feeling low? Not enough podcasts about movies in your life? Why not try
They Must Be Destroyed on Sight,
the new podcast cure-all, sure to get you right with the world and on a path to better living. We have exploitation, we have Italian horror, we have zombies, we have slashers, we have crime films, we have spaghetti westerns, we even have sci-fi and sex comedies. So take a dose of
They Must Be Destroyed on Sight
as needed, and let the hosts, Lee Russell, Daniel Harper, Paul Romali, and the odd guest host cure what ails you.
Warning, may cause atrophy, African consumption, black fever, bone shave, chin cough, colic, cramp colic, dropsy of the brain, elephantitis, grocer's itch, jaundice, mania, miasma, mortification, palsy, Pott's disease, rheumatism, scurvy, St. Anthony's fire, summer complaint, and worm fit in some people. Consult a physician before listening.
Did you ever see a film at such a young age it left you traumatized with cinematic wounds? Necrophilia. It's a dead issue, man. Don't push it. Cinema Psyops is a weekly podcast documenting an ongoing experiment on the mind of an unwilling test subject.
No one should have to watch this movie.
Oh, no one should have to watch this?
No one should have to watch this movie.
Surprisingly, it's not a topic that a lot of people really want to tackle.
I'm shocked, Prudes.
I know, really.
Right?
It's the next sexual frontier that no one wants to explore.
I am, in the most sincerest of senses, disappointed in you.
It takes a powerful goddess like Connie, jam her arm down the monster's throat and kill it. Oh, I'm still tripping out over that. Even as a kid, I was like, I gotta find a girl like that. Every week, I get a new look of disappointment that I never thought I could get out of her.
Unimaginable. At 12 years old, you should not be watching this movie.
Obviously.
At 13, you should not be. 14, you shouldn't be. I'm not entirely sure even 17-year-olds should be watching this.
Just because you're offended by something doesn't mean that you have the right to demand that it doesn't exist. Watching this film again, I had all of this like little nerd glee with everything that kept
little
popping
history
up.
all popping up
absolutely.
at you.
So I totally loved this film.
Hey, I know why you couldn't see that. It's because your brain's warped from watching this shit at 12 years old.
Yeah, this is a rough movie. I told you ahead of time when we were getting ready to do it that it was
How
going to be a
did you
rough
watch
one.
this shit at 12?
Because physical wounds heal, cinematic ones don't. Listen to Cinema Psyops.
Hey everybody, I'm Corey.
And I'm Zach, and we're the hosts of Podcasting After Dark, a cast dedicated to late-night horror and sci-fi of the 80s and 90s, often found on HBO and Cinemax.
You know, the movies your parents didn't want you watching as a kid. You can find us every other week on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, and Stitcher.
This is what you want.
This is what you get.
Greetings, friends. My name is Dean Legero, and I'm the host of the 3324 podcast. I invite you to join me and my lifelong friend Eric Kuber to come with us as we discuss the music and movies that shaped our life. Each week, we'll pick an album or film that we really connect to, and not only give you some great info and trivia, but also discuss, debate, and celebrate what it means to us and the journey it took us on. We also look forward to hearing from you and giving us some of your picks for us to check out and discuss. I think it'll be a really fun experience, so come along with us for the ride. You can find us on your favorite podcast provider and at 3324.buzzsprout.com. Thanks for your time, and welcome to the 3324 family.
It's time, let's check our cue, baby. Pair it with a couple brews, baby. We love good movies. We love the bad ones too. So we watch them all and pass their lessons on to you. Oh yeah. Everything I learned from movies helps to make life a little bit groovy. With the one last plot holes and gratuitous movies. It's time to get busy with your friend Steve and Izzy. At eilfm.podbean.com.
Follow us on the web on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. The podcast is available on Podbean, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Anchor, Apple, and anywhere else podcasts are available. Feel free to review our show and leave comments on any of those sites. Thanks a million for listening.
It's a jacked up